first part of the Design and Creativity Toolbox course was to design a creative session. For this, we used both sources shared with us on Blackboard as well as methods found by ourselves that were interesting and relevant to use in the context of this course. We started with the icebreaker and purge, which were selected from a list of methods given to us by the teacher. Although the icebreaker ended up being replaced by another method we learned while talking to other students who already performed the session. For the diverging part, we selected two methods from Media Lab Amsterdam's toolkit, the dark side, which is a method that turns around things to their opposite to help ideation later, turning the negative into positive again, and KJ method, which we thought would be a good idea for focusing on which ideas are more important, however, we did not use it.
For the converging part, we went with the COCD box method that was also shared with us by the teacher in order to get the students in the correct mindset for picking out relevant and feasible ideas out of the bunch, by getting the participants to group the ideas on two scales, originality and feasibility. The selected methods were then customized to better fit the context of the creative session by making them more personal and by allowing participants to freely communicate and share ideas during the time they would be working. For example, we allowed participants to talk to each other during the ideation for the dark side, which helped come with stronger ideas.
So this creative session will consist of 3 phases. We're going to start with the diversion phase, where we're going to generate a lot of ideas. Then conversion phase, where we're going to take these ideas and condense them down. And final phase, where we're going to land on the best few ideas.
So you just for what?
And I'm going to start a timer when we're done with setting up.
Yeah. And this one? What do we do with this?
Just stick it on the paper so it's easier to
Oh, it's easy to move it around.
Yeah, because then we're just going to have a bunch of post-its. I think it's time everyone takes like a bad idea, doesn't matter whose idea it is. Yeah, just pick random, or if you have a preference towards one, you can pick that one. So we each pick an idea and then we'll go around in circles and we're going to try to turn it into good ideas.
Is that right down below?
No, we're just going to talk about it, it's easier.
Just standing on recycling programs, so start recycling.
Yeah, that's quite simple, yeah. If you don't have like super specific things for it, then yeah, just take another one. Not all mine take either thing.
I have one that might be actually good, but it's not good.
Should we put down as like cook meals out of the
recycle it somehow.
Repurpose the food to better the community.
yeah.
Okay? Because then like people pay for it, but they pay to rent the
Or
place.
what you can do is like take the non-beautiful fruits and vegetables and use them in the creation of new like items. Like for instance,
Which ideas are more important, but we're gonna do that later on anyway. So I think we should just come up with some more ideas, like one for each, and then we can move on.
Yeah.
Cool.
Let's feel right about the idea.
What's your idea?
Sourcing materials that come from nature and can easily regenerate, like hemp bamboos, and using these to create packages.
sentence, it can be one word, it can be a description, but it's the goal of this assignment is to write down as many ideas as possible.
Pete says, you know, like maybe only one is enough, you know, like
Maybe make
give the two away, you know. Like,
also make them conscious about the food they throw away. Like some people just eat half a portion and they throw away the rest.
no, I feel like making them conscious about the food they want to eat.
Yeah, but then what happens when there's only one people left? It's like I am legend.
He was not the only one.
And then what does Vega eat?
Usually water destroys the edible
Somewhere
shape.
under, yeah.
If there's humidity somewhere,
Yeah, that's also
packaging.
true. Yeah, it's totally true. They throw all the vegetables and fruits that don't look good, but they are definitely eatable. Yeah, it's really good. If it doesn't look good, it's like a salt.
Yeah,
Because people don't buy it because they don't like how they look.
I also do that.
Those are usually the most healthy ones. Look bad, look good.
It all depends. Yeah, if they're genetically modified, they look bad.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
bad.
that's something else.
So this is the new idea. Depends how might be. Yeah, most likely the ones higher up on the feasible side, and we try to optimize them and make them even better. This is poison of the good thing.
Would use two bottles, right?
Mhm.
An empty bottle and a full bottle.
Yeah.
And that thing is they're gonna. So, for example, I'm imagining a car that's going around the neighborhood every day or every 2 days, and then we're feeding everything.
Can I change my wax?
Yeah, sure. No, there's 10 of them and there's only 4 of you, so it's free to choose.
What do you have to do with it?
With how your card.
Yeah, it depends on the card. Yeah.
Like often case people don't do that because they're just like, oh, I have some food in my fridge, but maybe I'll eat it later or something, you know?
Yeah, so you just leave it there.
So you just leave it there and it just like gets bad or something.
There's one more.
Yeah, we've got one more. I had used substitute to make products last longer.
Okay.
The car hallucination. So that is the question. Imagine that you are an animal, right, or an insect. How would you go about solving the problem?
Sure.
First of all, stop using plastic and start using paper packaging instead. Like, the thing is, if you get rid of all the plastic and you go over to, for example, paper, you don't really solve the problem, you just move it from one to the
From
other.
one to the other, yeah, just with
The
paper.
second one says cut down trees to make room for growth of trees. Like, that's also a thing you get rid of the nature, the trees and shit.
Original vegan food. Or like promote dishes that use local ingredients that are not ordered from the other
Or for example, it can be like
Because they
food
pollute
that
also.
vegans like create in order to subsidize the amount of calories that you can find, for example, in a burger. Because ideally you don't want to starve, but you want to eat good food, something that's tasty, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna eat like a fucking whole beetroot because it has 1,000 calories. I'm gonna eat beetroot with a few with nuts and that and that to get there.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm gonna like fucking chug it.
Our preferred source for selecting creative methods when designing our design process was Media Lab Amsterdam's toolkit. Their website lists the method selection in a very easy to use way by showing the characteristics and brief description of them in the thumbnails, making the method selection easier and more efficient, especially when looking for particular types. For diverging, we decided to use Mashup and customize it by combining the results we already had from the COCD box. We proceeded by taking the ideas generated by our creative session, already ranked on the scales of originality and feasibility, started picking out ideas out of the feasible column, and tried to combine them with ideas from all other sections, such as original but truly unfeasible ideas. Basically, trying to combine good and bad ideas to get even better ones to use.
For converging, we took the newly generated ideas, the top feasible ones, and rated them using an evaluation matrix where we created different criteria to evaluate ideas on. Criteria used range from expenses and customer or business happiness to feasibility, future feasibility, and originality. The evaluation matrix was selected to help us in converging and deciding on a final idea by creating a visual overview where ideas are rated and their total score can easily be calculated and viewed in relation to other ideas. We thought that Mashup would be a good and logical continuation of the COCD box, as we already had a clear overview of where we stand in terms of different value ideas, and it made really good use of the bad ideas that were not going to be used. The evaluation matrix provided us with an objective way to evaluate our final best ideas and pick a solution to present during the pitch by showing the strong and weak points of each idea in relation to other ideas. That each idea in relation. Using the methods selected for our design process, we used them to try and force ideas that originated from the diverse pool of solutions that we had from the creative session. For this, Mashup, the diverging method we had selected and customized, helped us by allowing us to take ideas from different sides of the previously set up COCD box and mash them to come up with completely new ideas that featured parts of both. This allowed some spontaneous ideas to arise, but also some hidden ideas that were not apparent at first. Taking ideas from one end of the table and mashing them up with something opposite was a way in which we came up with most of the ideas that ended up selected as final ideas. It felt a bit like converging because we had combined the mashup with the COCD box, but that was a good thing, as it helped us to quickly realize which ideas were worth mashing up, as some of them would always end up on the unoriginal or unfeasible side of the table.
For the converging part, the evaluation matrix helped us give ratings on different parameters to the final selected ideas and then sort them in order of how good an idea would be, which helped clarify the situation for selecting a final solution, as well as it showed us some impressive insights proving certain ideas worth it. The first weeks of the project were quite easy. At first we thought that we had already designed a whole session for the first year student trial session. Only when we were halfway done we realized that we ourselves needed only the icebreaker for the session. This made our work on designing the session for health students later a bit more easier. The session with first years helped us plenty to prepare ourselves for the main creative session following and to understand better how to work with participants. The real challenges of the project started when none of the health and nutrition students bothered to show up. We had prepared thoroughly for the session and ended up not doing it then. To make up for it, we needed to find participants for the creative session that are not our classmates to conduct the session. Finding people proved to be the most challenging part of the process, setting our workflow back a couple of weeks. When we did the session, we did not manage to book a room beforehand, and that did not help in setting up the room before participants arrived, making the whole process a little bit chaotic in the beginning. Otherwise, the session went fine. It probably would have been a bit better if we did it with other nutrition students or more than 4 people, generating more ideas. But otherwise, everything went fine. The last parts of the project were, again, quite easy, but more time-consuming than we anticipated, and because of the delays with the sessions, we were a little pressed to finish everything on time.
Designing the creative session, selecting the methods and customizing them was easier than expected, as there are plenty of online sources that can offer an overview of methods that can be used for this. Facilitating the creative session turned out to be a real difficulty, as the students that were supposed to be our participants for the first session ended up not showing up, which meant spending a lot of time doing nothing but searching for participants. After finally finding 4 willing participants, the creative session was a pleasure to do. However, I'm sure there were massive differences compared to the other student sessions, as we had a much smaller session with persons that we already knew. Compared to strangers from the health study, our creative input was definitely different, which meant the same for our final result. After the creative session was over, we quickly moved to designing our design process, using it to further expand on the feasible ideas and later selecting a final one worth presenting. Doing this was a good way to learn how to use someone else's ideas to generate your own, and it taught me how ideas can be refined, improved, but also taught about the process of examining a pool of results and selecting the best idea that is worth presenting out loud.